the only person who mentioned Hindi as his or her subject, would that person like to volunteer and state why?
Yeah, I mentioned
Shivani
Hindi.
mentioned it, yeah. So
I mentioned Hindi because I was pretty good in other subjects except Hindi. And
Yeah.
Hindi, verbally I was good when teacher used to call me on stage and ask me to read this or speak on this. But when it comes to the grammar portion of Hindi, I am still very not so good with the matras and all.
Got you. So, that's the reason.
The scariest part of that subject was that my answer sheet used to be full of red circles at all the matras.
Yeah, for the grammar. So. Yeah. So two things. First, according to the Google form that I created, none of you are scared about, except Shivani, none of you are scared about Hindi or English. That means you are okay with facing those unknown, topics in your language paper. That means you can actually face table topics. It's a thing of mindset, first of all. Second thing is that what Shivani mentioned as grammar and you're taking care of that part, that isn't as crucial when you are speaking in an impromptu speech. It is important, but you can first start developing that confidence of coming up on stage and facing an unknown topic rather than focusing on grammar. Even for contests, there is only 5 or 10 marks, I believe, 5 marks on the accuracy of your language and grammar. So it's not that big a deal compared to the other aspects of table topic speaking. Okay, now we'll start the workshop, and in the workshop, let me tell you how we'll go about it. I will not share any PPT. I was telling this to Shivani. First reason is that I have been traveling, I didn't get time. Second reason is that I avoid sharing PPTs because people have this impression that, okay, we'll go through the slides later and we will learn later. So whatever I'm telling, if you have to make notes, please do that. Of course, you can go back and check the recording, but that will be a little tedious. So whatever notes you have to make during the meeting or any questions you have to ask, please do that so that you'll be actively listening and you'll be engaged. So that's first part. Second part is we will discuss how to approach the table topic, any table topic in general. Then I will move towards some specific categories of table topics that usually you have to face in a club meeting and in a contest. And I will start with what you usually get in a contest, because contest topics are more formulaic and easier to prepare for. This might sound a little different from what usually people feel, because club meeting, chalo, I'll go and attend, but contests are a little scarier. It's actually the opposite once you start preparing for it. And I realized it 2 years back. So in my Toastmasters journey, I did not participate for the first 2-3 years because I was a district officer. I started participating in table topics contest only 2 years ago. And as I started preparing, I realized that contest topics are actually easier to prepare. It's not tough. So for guests, we have an annual contest which starts from the club level, and then you start moving up. Like, for example, if there is any Kenja Vidyalaya student here, they will understand that you have your competition in your school, then you move to the district, then you move to the state level. So like that, we have competitions. So we have a competition for table topics too. So as we start discussing a table topic, let me explain what it is. It's a one-liner. It can be one word, it can be a short phrase, or it can be a full sentence. Usually a proverb or an idiom, but not always, as you will see, as we'll discuss, especially for the interest of guests. I wanted to share this. The reason why we do this, and by the way, those who do not know about this, table topics was the reason why Toastmasters was started. Because Dr. Ralph C. Smedley couldn't speak off the cuff. The Dr. Ralph C. Smedley is the person who started Toastmasters, he was the founder of Toastmasters. He had to give a toast in a session, I think in some special occasion. He was not prepared and he couldn't speak properly. And that's why he started Toastmasters, and that's why table topics has been an integral part of Toastmasters. It's a copyrighted term. Table topics is a term that you can only use within Toastmasters, not within outside, in some other organization. So that's the background of history of table topics. Why is it important? It goes beyond your life. In your life beyond Toastmasters. If you are working, in most occasions, you will not be able to be ready for a job interview question or any scenario in your office. You have to manage several things on the spot, at your work, at your school, at everywhere you are in life, right? Today, we came in late and I made it a topic. I began the workshop by saying that this is how thoughts come to us late, right? These kind of connections you can make, you can answer your job interview questions better. You can tackle your day-to-day challenges at work better if you are confident about managing things impromptu on stage. So that's what I at least have experienced in my journey in the past few years. Okay, now there are 4 stages. I can write here, but the virtual audience may not be able to see. Shall I?
I think they can see, they should be able to see. It's quite
Okay, okay. Let's see. So can you give me a sketch pen? Do in case. Okay. Let me start off this thing. Okay, one observation from the questions I mentioned. The score, the level of comfort, the average level of comfort that you guys have with participating in a table topic session in your club is about 3.8 out of 5, which is great. I mean, close to 4. 4 out of 5 times you would actually prefer participating. However, for contests, it's 2.5. So I think there's some reservation in contest participation. How many people participated last year at the club level? How many people participated here, right? No, not present here. In general, how many? Do you remember how many people participated? 3. 3, right? My request to all members and to the EC members and senior members present is, please talk to your mentors, please talk to anyone that you are comfortable with, take some guidance. This workshop is not the be all and all. Of course, table topics contest will happen maybe 6 months, 8 months later. Please participate in the contest. This does not take any specific preparation. Even if you are not fully prepared, it's okay. Please participate in the contest. If your club has 15-20 members, almost all of them should participate. Especially if it's virtual, you can participate from anywhere. Okay. And we will speak about that why. I hope it's visible to the thing, but projected, yeah. So there are 4 things that I'll talk about, which are basic building blocks, and then we'll move on to some specific discussions. Okay. So the first thing is that you need for table topics is
reflection on the screen. Can they read it?
I'm not sure if it's visible to the virtual audience. I hope to some extent it will be. First thing is, how do you prepare? You have to prepare really well for table topics. I was also pretty average with table topics 2 years back. I have improved to some extent, and I'm still not there, I feel. But by participating in contests, I have improved a lot, I would say, because I had to specifically keep that in mind that I'm going for contests and I have to prepare it well. So we'll look into it. Now in preparation, what you can do? Some simple ideas that you can do. Attend your club meetings, attend the table topic session, and don't only put up the hand and participate. That's what everyone says. That's great. But if there are 5 or 6 topics shared in that day's meeting, make a note of all the topics on a notebook or digitally, or with pen and paper. And as soon as the topic is shared, start jotting down your thoughts. Okay. So please start jotting down your thoughts, and I'll share a very basic idea as to how you can do that, but I will do it for topics in certain categories. So we'll come to that later, how you jot down your thoughts, and then see how the speaker spoke. If you feel your interpretation was better, the speaker was going off the topic, didn't speak that well, maybe it could have been much better, then fine. If you feel that the speaker took an entirely different perspective, which you never imagined that the topic could have been handled in this manner, note down that learning. Okay. In this way, when you attend a meeting, you can amplify your learning 5 or 6 times, because you are actually practicing all the topics silently. Correct? Not by saying, but by writing initially, and then observing what the speaker is speaking. Okay. Now, once you have done that for a few meetings, you will start noticing some patterns. Okay. What patterns? I'll come to them. But in general, any questions till now, by the way, from the virtual audience? If there is any question, please keep texting. Shivani, if you can help, if someone texts in the chat box. Okay. Oh, you can't see, right? So can you help me once if someone texts here? I don't see any pings, but yeah. Okay, now what will happen is, once you start doing this, okay, someone is getting, you are making me really nervous. Okay, so once you start doing this, you will see that most of the topics even if they are given as a pictorial representation or anything of that sort, they link with some kind of proverb, some kind of topic where you need to have an opinion for or against, or some topics which are a little more random. So we'll come to that later, but most of them will be either a proverb or a topic where you can choose a stand for or against it. Okay, proverbs are the most common form, and within proverbs also, it is about a certain virtue or a vice that you're talking about. Okay, for example, let us break down to one of the topics that were shared here. That tortoise, hare, and little different twist. But what was the message that slow and steady wins the race? What is the virtue there you can take about? Consistency, patience, right? So if you notice, most of the proverbs that you get in table topics will link with consistency, patience, failure, success, self-love, confidence on yourself. Okay. What else? Like honesty. Okay. So once you attend 8 or 10 meetings, just imagine you have attended 8 or 10 meetings. You have made a note of 50, 60 topics, 5-6 topics on an average. You will clearly see a pattern emerging here that these kind of topics are coming repeatedly. Okay. When I share the topics today, and I'll start sharing it very soon, you will see that and the topics I shared today, by the way, I'm telling it to most of the topics except the ones that I'll give to the guests are actually contest level topics that I got in the last 2 years, or I have heard in some of the other contests. So once you start preparing, this is the pattern that you will come up, you will start seeing very often. Now, extremely easy hack. Once you make a list of these kind of virtues or vices, start thinking of stories from anything that you're passionate about. It can be sports, it can be literature, it can be current affairs, politics. I would say avoid it because not only for meetings but for contests also. Some people take it negatively if they don't align with your views, or maybe history or these kind of topics, whichever interests you. Suppose if someone is a cricket fanatic, you can create stories around cricket on these topics. Okay, so consistency, some story of maybe Virat Kohli. Okay, failure, success, MS Dhoni, any captain who has been really successful. You can develop stories. And an additional hack here: please don't say generic stories. Okay? I have seen people, they love Elon Musk, they try to fit Elon Musk in all daily topics. Okay, topic is about friendship and love. They're trying to fit in Elon Musk because he worked for PayPal and PayPal had the word pal. So don't try to force fit stories like that, but create some unique stories. For example, everyone talks about 2011, World Cup win, 1983 World Cup win. If you have to talk about grit and say grit or persistence, I think I mentioned one. I didn't mention persistence. I don't know how many of you remember. Some millennials will, I'm sure. Anil Kumble bowled in a test match in West Indies with a broken jaw, and he got some, I don't know, 4 or 5 wickets, and India won that test match. So these kind of incidents can also be shared. And when you have these kind of incidents ready, try to add some masala to it, which will make it interesting. For example, if you really love some cricket stories, try and see what the commentator mentioned in that part. Okay, maybe Ravi Shastri, maybe Jan Bishop, maybe Harsha Bhogle would have said some special line. You can keep that in mind and start this match with that. So this is one easy way to collect stories like this. This will not be enough. You have to have some personal stories also related to the same topic. So create 2 buckets. One thing that you're comfortable with, which is not personal stories, and the second thing would be personal stories. Now in personal stories, you can focus on, first and foremost, the easiest one is Toastmaster stories. Okay. Your first day at Toastmasters, your first month at Toastmasters, your first EC role, your contest experience in past. Sometimes you got, 2 of the examples I gave already. I mentioned in the question what was your most embarrassing table topic and what was the table topic you really enjoyed. So create a list of Toastmaster stories, not necessarily your stories. It can be someone else's also, but try to keep your stories. And I'll tell you why this is important to keep the focus on yourself. Second would be happenings at office or school. Okay, something happened in office, your achievements in life, what you did in career, struggles, hardships you faced, or something unique that happened in your college. Some colleague who is really good, you learn from them. Some colleague who is really irritating, they don't respect boundaries. Whatever it is, you can develop a lot of stories. Third thing, and this is a caveat I would say with a star mark, family and friends. Do not share anything if you're not comfortable. If you're not comfortable in talking about something, don't push yourself to do that. But this is another good thing that can connect with the audience really well. Okay. Beyond this, and most, like, this is something people ignore. And that is day-to-day happenings. How many of you have got late going to office in traffic while driving or while taking a metro? Okay. How many of you have been irritated, abused people around? Not abused, but you have been irritated with people around you, right? So that can be a story of how to be patient amongst, among these kind of scenarios. Nothing is going to change. You can, preserve the rest of your day by keeping your calm. Today we got late. Okay. Today, I mean, I have stuffed in so much luggage in my bag, I couldn't pack it properly, that my bag is partially open. So, I was just thinking about this, that this is how my boss pressurizes me for work without realizing how overloaded I am. And this is how I've been pushing stuff inside my bag without realizing how, stuffy and overloaded it is. So we miss these kind of small stories, which can be A, relatable. B, since it's relatable, it's also funny and humorous. People don't laugh at your content because they're great jokes. They laugh at your content because they feel, this has happened with me, right? So that also can be added. So these are 3-4 categories, just an example where you can develop your stories. Now this is just a structure.
We have a message in chat.
Yeah, sorry.
Aren't stories generally meant to be personal? Can you share some examples of non-personal stories except for Elon Musk?
Okay, so let me talk about personal and non-personal stories. What I meant by personal stories is not the Elon Musk one. Elon Musk one is a factual story, someone else's story, biographical, or those kind of things. So that's a separate category. It can be about a cricketer, it can be about some statesman, philosopher, anyone. Okay, politician, I would say avoid as much as possible, even if it's a common person, like say you love some politician, okay, because someone might like Obama, but then someone might like Putin more. So you can so that would be the part. In personal stories, there are again 2 categories. That's what I was trying to explain. In personal stories, I can talk about my friend Shivani, who has XYZ happenings in her life, or I can talk about myself, my family, or something that has happened to me. I would say try and stick to the second part. I have learned it the hard way, especially for contests, that the more you stick to your story, the better chances you have to win. So I'll come to that.
That's exactly what I actually meant, right? That when you're talking, and that too in an impromptu environment, right? Or an impromptu topic, essentially, I feel that in general, it's going to be much, I don't know, easy or tough, but at least it's going to be a little bit, more manageable if you're sharing your story. That's why I wanted to understand a bit more about, what do we mean by, are those more like factual, or basically, people who have influenced us and that we're able to fit in the context? Is that what you mean by? Okay.
Yes. One point, Nimisha, I would say my opinion is a little divided on this. I personally find it more convenient to share these kind of biographical stories or some other recent happenings and other things than a personal story. Somehow, for some reason, the things that come to my mind are not my stories, something else. And I have seen this with many other people also, that something that has happened recently, for example, Rinku Singh hitting 5 6s in last year, something unbelievable might also happen. Some magic related topic, if you get it, you can mention that, magic can also happen. So, but the benefit of sharing a personal story is, for most people, I agree with you, Nimisha, the common approach is to talk about your life. Secondly, it will be relatable. Thirdly, it's original. Like, no one, suppose in a contest, A person may have spoken about MS Dhoni already, and you are coming and speaking about the same story about MS Dhoni, so effectiveness will go down. So that's one point. So it's better to share a personal story, definitely, but for that you need to create this bank. And whenever you make these notes, keep that notebook handy. Reason being that you cannot come up with everything off the cuff after listening to the topic. This is why the preparation is important. And I'll tell you, I don't want to take too much time, but there's this joke of Bill Burr. How many of you know who is Bill Burr? Okay, I'm not sure if anyone in the virtual audience is raising their hand, but Bill Burr is a comedian. He is in his late 40s or 50s now. Great comedian. There are many other comedians who speak off the cuff really well. He went to some late night show. I forgot who's. Conan. I mean, they go to many shows, right? When they try to promote. So he was speaking about his family, and he told that the only issue in my family is me. And Conan was asking, like, what's going on with your wife and all that. So he told that, my wife is this perfect piece in a museum, preserved very well inside a glass box, and I am the building that always has scaffolding around it, which has been built for like 5-6 years. Like everyone is like, why shouldn't we pull this down? And I'm like, how does this man come up with this content? Like, come up with such a witty response immediately. Then I went back and saw his show called Paper Tiger, which is on Netflix, which is an old special. He had this joke in that show, but he found this piece and joke appropriate to share when he asked about wife and family, and he used it. So even famous public speakers, I think stand-up comedians are the toughest form of public speaking, because you have to make people laugh, which is a very difficult thing. People come up with these kind of things because they have a lot of things prepared. They've spoken about these things before. So never feel shy of repeating your career story, your failure story, and then eventual success, or some colleague who is irritating at work. If you feel like repeating that, I mean, don't get that block in your head that, oh, I'm repeating, so maybe 2-3 people in this audience of 15 may have already heard it. Don't worry about that. If it's appropriate with the topic, please go ahead with it. But to develop that, you need to create this kind of a bank. And these are only few categories that I mentioned: consistency, patience, failure, success, confidence, self-love, honesty, persistence, grit. These kind of, whenever you see a table topic, once you write your initial thoughts, listen to the person, and you make your notes. After that, you try to categorize that topic with, first of all, with one word. Like, give me a table topic, like a proverb-based table topic, any topic.
Can give you?
Yeah, sure.
I decided to fly instead of crawl.
You decided to fly instead of
I
crawl.
decided to fly instead of crawl.
Correct. Ambition. Okay. So if you have to summarize a topic in one virtue or vice, this topic is about ambition. You're not deciding to just go the common route, and you're not deciding to go like everyone else, and you're not deciding to taking it slow. You want to rapidly progress. Again, this is what I mentioned, Nimisha. So the first example that came to my mind was Elon Musk story. He mentioned that try and do everything within 6 months or 1 year. You will fail in most of the things, but it will give you more learnings than if you try to do it slowly over 10 years, right? So that's kind of a thing you can build upon.
Thank you for addressing that. I think I just have a hypothesis. I don't even know. I've not even tried it. So, but yeah, I'll see what works best for me. But thank you.
Sure. Of course, everyone will have their own process, but I'm just sharing the process that I feel worked for me. I was not a naturally strong impromptu speaker, but I developed this kind of a formula to tackle regular meetings and contests better. Jawahar, sorry I couldn't get back to you. You had a question. Yeah.
Yeah. So my question is, in a long speech, like 7-minute speech, I know you can't fake it.
Correct.
Because it will show.
Correct.
But in 2-minute speech,
Correct.
Can we take that risk?
Yes, absolutely you can. In fact, in a long speech also, a friend of mine, I'll not name him. He won the ISC at district level. It was not an original speech. Original in the sense the entire thing did not happen as he told in ISC speech. So that can also happen. Now, thanks for bringing this topic. You can create a story out of here. Or I'll tell you something. I don't know if this, I hope this does not violate integrity, respect, service and excellence. But suppose that something happened in your friend's life, and that's a really good story. You can say it's your story. Instead of saying friends. And I'll tell you why this I factor is very important in table topics. When you say something happened to you instead of your friend, your dad, your cousin, someone, it impacts more. psychologically. So try and link with your story. If you don't get anything, then please do, please focus on this. Very important point, and I'm writing this in big and bold. Anyone who has delivered a lot of prepared speeches, they're already ahead in the game with table topics. For the interest of guests, prepared speeches are speeches that you deliver in Toastmaster meetings after preparing them well with your mentor as per some project objectives, which will happen after the workshop gets over, my workshop gets over. Okay. Now, if you have completed a path, which is the entire curriculum of Toastmasters, if you choose one course in Toastmasters, it will be called a path. There are 14 projects and about 18-20 speeches. If you have 20 speeches, maybe not all of them will be personal stories, but at least 10 to 12 of them will be personal stories. You have a great bank of content ready with your prepared speeches. We often don't realize that we have spoken of a lot of personal stories and other stories in our prepared speeches, but we fail to utilize it for table topics. Why not do that? And if you notice, your prepared speeches are mostly along these lines: inspirational stories, consistency, patience, success, failure. All these things come into your prepared speeches. So why not use those kind of things also for table topics? Thanks, Jawahar, for bringing it up. I missed sharing this. So this would be the initial level of feedback. Now, after your preparation is done, how do you structure your content? Okay. So in terms of structuring, I would advise everyone to check something called a judge's ballot. You can share it in the group later for table topics. And why I'm telling you to start from that, even for a newbie, it clearly outlines how the point system is divided, and it clearly outlines how you need to go about a table topic. Okay. First thing you need to have is an introduction in the speech. Second thing, you need to start off with your story. It can be one story, it can be two stories showing two different aspects, and then you need to move to a conclusion. Now let us break down how you can do the introduction. First big thing, do not repeat the topic unless repeating the topic brings in some special effect. I'll explain that how. Maybe I'll explain that once I give a table topic, so I'm holding that back. Instead of going about that road, what you can do, you can have, if you are comfortable with sharing quotations and it is comfortable for you to remember quotations, you can make a list of quotations, again based on these kind of one-word virtues and vices, and you can use a suitable quotation if it comes to your mind. No pressure if it comes to your mind. Second thing that you can do is, if the topic is a little complicated and long, then you can try to explain what the topic means in the introduction itself. What this will do is, this will make your audience, and if it's a contest, your judges, aware that you have understood the topic. Very important. Okay, in a table topic speech, you get only 2 minutes to create an impact. If the first thing that your audience understands is that this person gets what is being spoken about, that creates a good impression. And for your contest, it gives you a good leverage in terms of points. Now, how you can do that? For example, a long topic. Let me give you an example. Okay. And an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. If you have to simply say it, what will you say?
Prevention is better.
Prevention is better than cure, right? But this has been complicated and put into a really long topic. So you can start off with that, explaining the topic. Another thing that you can do is what I call like the screenplay of a movie, wherein you do not start with explaining the topic. You start with explaining a situation. The topic is about patience and keeping your cool. And Shivani, you start off with by saying, it was 10 a.m. I was not getting a cab. I was frantically trying to book one. So and so, whatever happened today morning, right? You start with that kind of a dramatic beginning. You know what you're going to talk about, of course. And then you move on to then you address the audience, Toastmasters, guests, everyone present. This is what happened to me last month, XYZ, and then you start off with it. That can be another way. Before you start the introduction, there's another important part. Please take 4 or 5 seconds of time. No one is going to penalize you for that. And those 4 or 5 seconds actually seem quite long, and that's a good thing. In your head, it feels like quite long. Don't feel embarrassed, don't feel ashamed. Be shameless about taking 4 or 5 seconds to organize. And you take that decision. Do I want to start with a quote? Do I want to start with the story directly and then move on to explaining the topic, or do I explain the topic? Okay, these are just 3 ways. There are many other ways to go about it. But please don't say these kind of things. Good morning, everyone. So today my topic is, or this is a very good topic that I have got today. Okay, I am a guest and participating first time. Please excuse me if I can't speak well. No. Okay, don't say all this. Just get into what you have to say, but take 5 seconds initially to think of it. Okay. I'm sharing an important thing. I got to know from the contest organizing committee this time that Toastmasters gives them a detailed guideline to the PQD team as to how long a person can take before starting their topic. So it's I think about 10 to, if I'm not wrong, about 10 to 15 seconds. Now 15 seconds would seem too long, and the judges may feel that you're getting no clue about it. So 15 seconds is too long, I would say, from an impression perspective. But take 5-6 seconds for sure. Don't rush into saying that topic unless you're fully confident that okay, sunte hi you are ready. I know what I have to speak about. So that's introduction. Building up the story. So ensure that your story is well connected to the topic, even if you're repeating it. Okay. So stories are like what I describe a typical dhaba menu or a North Indian restaurant menu. I mean, I'm also North Indian in a way, so don't take it wrongly. But you go there and you see the veg section. The starting word will be paneer, and then there will be paneer pasinda, paneer kofta, paneer butter masala, paneer X, paneer Y, aloo paneer, matar paneer, etc. Okay. The common thing is paneer. So your story is the common thing. Now, what kind of gravy you want to put it into? That is important. If your topic is about grit and persistence, and you use the same story about considering say patience, it's perfectly alright. So I'll give you an example of someone I heard someone speaking about Saurav Ganguly's story. He went out of the team, Craig Chappell threw him out of the team, and then he came back. That can be both grit and persistence and patience, right? So how you mention that and you repeat that keyword. You can't repeat the topic, but you can repeat this kind of the keyword, the virtual wise, so that your audience gets that okay, you're staying on topic, right? So please try and prepare it accordingly. If you have 2 stories in mind, please go ahead. Maybe 2 stories can show 2 different aspects. Maybe the first story can be about something you failed in life, and then something else, some good thing happened to you 2 years later. So you can structure it like this, okay? So that call you have to take. Do not start a second story, and I made this mistake this time in the district finals, or a second anecdote, anything when the yellow card is up, when it's almost 2 minutes and you're starting something. Don't do that, because we will need some time to conclude and wrap up the speech. So if you bring in a new story, the audience would be like, why is he taking us somewhere? Like in a movie, have you seen something new happening when the movie is almost 70-80% done? No. It's always related to the main plot, right? If something new has to happen, it will happen around interval. You see something, strikingly different happening and you get shocked, then you wait with your popcorn and all, and then you see what happens. But it never happens around 80% of the time. The movie climaxes towards that phase, but it doesn't bring in something new character, new story, no. So keep that in mind. So this is how you develop the story. We have spoken about how to develop the story a lot, so I'll not get into it too much. The next thing that you need to do is to conclude them. Conclusion, there are 2-3 simple ways I'll just share. First thing is share what is your learning, what you have learned in life from your personal story, your whatever has been your personal experience, or from MS Dhoni, Elon Musk, whatever story you have shared, what you have learned. So you stated clearly that from this I have learned, or this is what I have experienced, I have observed, I have taken it forward in my life, and my philosophy has changed. Whatever, use a phrase like this to begin with, so that you clarify to the audience that this is your personal learning. But conclusion, call to action does not end here. You have to specifically address the audience and say what they can take away. Okay. So for example, if you are someone who chronically gets late to meetings, to everything, then you should prepare 15 minutes in advance. You should set an alarm, whatever. Like, so share a call to action for your audience. Okay, you can ask your audience not to be too judgmental with people without understanding the background. You can ask your audience not to give up hope based on the stories that you have shared. That if you could come from this kind of a scenario to this, your audience can surely. So put in a sentence which will be directed towards your audience as a call to action. Finally, end with a strong statement. Again, a quotation can be there, or this message itself. Like I had shared, and I think this was a quotation of someone, I don't remember, that if your mind can believe it, if your mind can conceive it, if your heart can believe it, you can achieve it. This is very generic. This fits in with most table topics, right? So prepare some interesting line, and that final line can be also the message for the audience if you don't have enough time. But this should come around when the red card is given. That's the last 30 seconds of the speech. Okay. So that's how you conclude. You can have 2 to 3 sentences. One, what is your learning? One, what is the learning of? What is the learning that the audience should take back, or what the audience should do? And the last sentence, optional, can be a quotation, or you can repeat the speech title if you find it powerful enough and relevant enough. But do not start by saying the speech title for sure, like the topic for sure. But you can try and end with it. If it's suitable, you can place it. Okay. So this is how you structure this thing. Now, structures need modification. You will not always be able to structure it like this, but in general, most of the topics you will be able to structure. Some basic do's and don'ts. Don't repeat the topic, like I mentioned, unless something interesting you can say. Okay. I think I'll just try and recall something. Let me think of it, and I have an idea, but I don't want to share it because I'll give a topic on that. Second point, don't get disqualified. This is tough. I started my table topics journey. So last year I was table topics contest journey. So last year I was a part of 2 clubs. In one club I spoke really well. I believe I won, but I spoke for 2 minutes 32 seconds, and I had finished with a really long quotation. Not required. The speech would have been really good without that quotation also, and I got timed out. If you are timed out in a club meeting or in contest or in life in general, okay, if you are timed out with something, then you are going to miss the opportunity anyway. So please stay within time. Do not rush in the beginning. Take a deep breath, take 5 seconds at least. Also, next thing is listen to the topic carefully. The topic is repeated, mentioned once and then repeated once. So you are hearing the topic twice. You should listen to the topic in the first go, and you should verify you have listened, whether you have listened correctly at the second go. Okay, this is very important. I'll explain how. I have a special topic reserved for Toastmaster Jawahar, so I'll explain how the listening part actually matters a lot. And yeah, so that's there. Because if you do not listen properly, you will end up speaking on a wrong topic. And even if you speak magnanimously, you are out of the best table topic speaker for the day in that particular meeting or in the contest. So please be careful with that. Okay, so that's all. Final thing, practice, learn, practice. And I mentioned participating in a contest is very important, because see, for table topics, except one Pathways project where you have to be a table topics master, there is no such project in Pathways. So you tend to take it in an unstructured manner, you don't practice it often. But when you are participating in a contest, you be conscious in your effort. Even if you don't win, your habits will start changing, and you start taking this structured approach, practicing more, noting things down more. So that will really help you a lot. So that's my suggestion. And in a club of 15-20 people, I mean, what's the point of thinking about embarrassment also? Like, there's no point. And I'm quite sure if you go ahead with this kind of a structure, in contests, the contest chairs and the team is obliged to give you a generic topic. It will not, in most cases, be a random topic which no one can speak on. So it is actually easier, or I would say more stereotypical in a contest rather than a club meeting. Club meeting, you can have pictures, you can have videos, you can have some, random super lotto done, and then a coupon will come out, and then you have to go and submit it somewhere, then you'll get your topic. Those kind of things don't happen in contests. So that's another benefit. Now, before I hand it over, can I have 10 minutes more? Is that okay? Yeah, sure. Okay, so whatever I have discussed, just to tell you the categories again, there will be mostly proverbs. Second category is some fact or some current affair statement, which may have a for or against side. For there, you need to clarify how you are speaking, whether you agree, whether you disagree. Okay, so that's there. Then the third category is a really long topic, which seems very complicated. It's very difficult to understand what the topic is about. This is a feedback that I got from some people. That first feedback, I think I have covered. Some of you mentioned this feedback that I'm not being able to organize my thoughts properly. So that's what we have discussed for the majority of the workshop. Second feedback is sometimes I don't understand the topic. It's very complicated. So I'll give you one or two examples where these kind of things happen. And let me tell you one thing, long topics are like a really tough competitive exam paper. You can be sure that a cutoff will be low. So if it's tough for you, it will be tough for most people. So how you will approach a long topic, I'll come to a few suggestions. First suggestion is the long topic can be usually summarized into something simpler, like the ounce of prevention, the topic that I mentioned. It basically means prevention is better than cure. Sometimes it's not a proverb-based topic. You can't put it into virtue and vices immediately, but the topic will be really long and visual. You can visualize the topic. Okay. And how can you visualize the topic? I'll come to that example soon. But remember one thing, long topics give you a huge benefit which you don't get in other topics. You do not have to begin with a quotation. You do not have to focus on getting a perfect story, because in most cases, if the topic is really long, the main thing that the audience will try to understand from you or your judges in contest is if you can explain the topic well. If it's a long topic, if you break it down and explain it for your audience, okay, the topic essentially means this. That can be your introduction, and then you can start off with something relatable. That's it. That will be very simple. So, just sharing an anecdote. Everyone knows the David and Goliath story, right? Yeah. So it has been, someone has done a research on this, and I can share that link with you guys as a TED talk on this. That everyone felt that Goliath was difficult to defeat, and David was the, I would say, the person who was unexpected that he wanted. Okay, he was the underdog, but actually it's of the opposite. Goliath was so huge in size that his vision was impaired. His intellect was not as developed because he was huge in size, so the glands worked in that manner, and he was not very mobile. David, on the other hand, had that sling, right? It's almost like a bullet. So now you tell me, if you change the version, that there is a huge person who is not very stable, who can't think through properly, and there's another person with a gun, who will win the fight, right? So it depends all on our perspective, how you look into it. Okay. So now some topics. So I have just 4 or 5 topics, and to show what kind of range of topic, different things we have. So can we have some virtual raise of hands? Not a guest, maybe a Toastmaster first, if anyone would like to go. Anyone from the virtual audience?
I thought you would just directly dive into the stage.
Okay, I can see your hand. Yeah, Vidushi. Okay, so Vidushi, I'm giving you a topic, and can someone manage the timing card? So, who's the timer today? Sudhir. Sudhir, are you all set? Can I share the topic? Okay, good. Okay. Toastmaster Vidushi. Patience may be bitter, but its fruit is sweet. Patience may be bitter, but its fruit is sweet. Toastmaster Vidushi.
Thank you, Toastmaster Avishek, sorry. So, patience can be bitter, but its fruit is sweet. It just means that hard work and patience might be temporarily hard and temporarily very difficult, but it will be easier later on, and you will reap more benefits later on if you're patient before. So in my life, I had a similar thing where I was overweight and I was not able to do things patiently for a longer time. I did not have my consistent diet and workout. So I had to sit down with myself and take it step by step by step. And every day I was patient with my results. It gets very difficult if you don't see results for a really long time. And with 9 months of rigorous patience and consistency, I was able to lose a lot of weight. So I would just like to conclude with that even though it is very difficult at start, and it is very difficult to maintain your patience at start, but if you just take it step by step, day by day, it gets very easier, and towards the end you get better results. Thank you.
Thank you. Well spoken. I'll just share some feedback for you, Vidushi. I think you did great. You explained the topic. You shared your personal example. You left a message. I think the message for the audience could have been a little more clear, that what you want the audience to do. That part could have been clearer. And also in the beginning, maybe instead of saying thank you, Topics Master, you can just replace it with, addressing the audience as a whole. Okay, Table Topics Master, Toastmasters and guests. So that can be done. So really well done. Okay, so this is the latest topic I had delivered a speech on. This was my district contest topic. Was it really tough, Vidushi? It was okay, right? Again, it links with, our virtue patience. So I'm telling you, whatever you get in even the final level of contests, it's not that tough always. Now I'll tell you the story why I was stressing on personal stories. I was the second runners-up. I started with the speech sharing a quotation, not a quotation, but a theory is that your success between success, if you want to reach success and you have an opportunity, the only thing that is missing is patience. You have to be patient for that opportunity apart from building up your skills. This is what I started with. And I shared some stories. I shared a story that any cricketer that is successful is they had to wait for their chance. Okay. For example, that was just an example. Like for example, I'm not sure how many of you know. Again, this is a slightly unique take. Everyone talks about MS Dhoni being a winner in the 2011 World Cup, but many of them don't know that MS Dhoni started later than Yuvraj Singh, Mohammad Kaif, and other players. They were already under 19 World Cup winner superstars. Dhoni was still at TT at Kharagpur station that time when the under 19 World Cup was happening, and he got his chance when he was 22 or 23, I believe, as a wicketkeeper in the India team. So that was the thing. Then I shared the personal story about how I had to be patient. I didn't do well in my entrance exams, but eventually got to work for my dream company, even from a very humble college, kind of. Now what happened is I don't know what went off, and I brought back the cricket reference again when the yellow card was up, and I didn't have enough time to end the call to action properly. When I started speaking, it was already red card, so I quickly wrapped up with one or two sentences, and I didn't properly have a call to action for the audience. So that might have been a reason why I lagged behind. However, positive side of this is, if I stretched and tried to end it on a grand way, I would have got disqualified. So it is becoming second runners up at the district level is better than being disqualified. So that's the person who came second. He spoke amazingly well. He started by saying, "Bhule to nahi." So this was a campaign by Pepsi when they called in Saurav Ganguly around 2007 or 8. Not 2007. I don't remember exactly what time. When he was trying to get back to the India team, and this was a campaign by Pepsi that "Have you forgotten me?" like that. I believe that was a great emotional connect, that he started with that kind of a sentence and reminded us of that, his struggles and all that. Then he moved on to a great story, a great example. And ants, accumulate everything throughout the summers, and then in winters they don't do anything, or during another season they accumulate all the food patiently for one season. That was a great example. He did not have a personal story. Person who won from Bangladesh, a lady won. She had a story where she had to go through different phases of her life, and she had to patiently wait for the next opportunity. And what she is doing now. So 2 or 3 stories. Now, important part here is that I spoke about my story, but that was limited. I spoke a lot about cricket also. The other person also spoke about cricket and ants and all. He spoke really well. His speech was well structured. But the person who won had personal stories. And personal stories about herself, not about her friends or family or other people. So that's why personal stories matter. And I have always been against this. I feel that if someone can come up with a story about current affairs or sports or something, that demands even more credits, that you could come up with a random story like that. But what I have understood now is that if it's personal, it's easier to connect. All the judges will understand. It's not necessary that everyone will understand a cricket reference. It's not necessary that everyone will understand a startup founder reference. But everyone will understand a generic personal story. So that's why it's important. Okay. So even though I'm still not a big believer that you have to have a personal story, but these are the benefits of having a personal story. So that's what I wanted to explain. Okay. Okay. Now, second topic. Who would go for the second topic? Someone virtually. Okay, Jyoti. Yeah. So Jyoti, I'll share your topic. Timer, are you ready with the screen sharing? Okay. Guest or Toastmaster?
She's a guest.
Okay. I have to tell. Okay, she's really good. Okay, great.
Just a background.
Okay.
And she has attended the transformational workshop also.
Okay. Great. Guest Jyoti. One man's success is another man's failure. One man's success is another man's failure. Yes, Jyoti.
Raise your hands if you feel jealous when your opponent wins the competition. Do you? Well, I always felt jealous when I came second and my opponent was the first receiving the trophy on the competition. That one man's success made my failure. But sooner I realized that coming second in a competition is not about failure. Failure is the thing when we give up on our courage to go on the stage. It's important that we should believe in ourselves and do not let others' success defeat us, defeat our courage to be on that stage. It is important that we need to learn from others' success so that we don't feel to be as a failure, but we learn to be a learner and then strive to be a successful person, because someone's success is a kind of inspiration that will help you to be the winner on that stage and receiving the trophy one day. Thank you.
Okay, great. So, can anyone tell, based on today's workshop, what's the first thing that Jyoti did that was really good?
The beginning.
Okay, no, okay, fine. Shivani is saying the beginning. Something that's a best practice that should be done. Can someone share what Jyoti did well?
Audience interaction.
Okay, anything else?
Vocal quality.
Okay, good. Well, let me tell you one thing that I feel she did best. She waited for 5-7 seconds before starting to speak. And that's why her speech was quite organized, right? When you heard it. Now, Jyoti, really well done. You explained the topic. You had an audience interaction. That was your way of beginning. A quick feedback, audience interaction is great, but for virtual perspective, when you ask a question and raise your hand, it's difficult to get a response. So my suggestion would be, and this is for any speech, by the way, even for maybe when you deliver a prepared speech or evaluation, anything, my suggestion is convert that question into a rhetorical question. where you do not need a response. You can just ask it like a rhetorical question. Don't you feel jealous when you see someone going ahead of you? Instead of asking to raise, because it brings in that awkward moment when you know that you can't see anyone and still, so that's there. Another great example that I remembered, I don't know if it clicked in your mind or not, was two friends going up and checking Rancho's result and seeing that. Okay, so that could have also been a good reference. But anyway, so that's great. Jyoti, I think one thing that you could have done better is you spoke a lot about the topic, but you didn't get to hear about the anecdote from your life or from something else. So that could have been a little more specific, that something happened and then maybe you came second or third consistently, and then eventually you started becoming a topper in your school. So that would have been a nice curve to give that example. So that's that. Overall, well done. Now, again, this was the topic that I got last year, not this year. In 2022, I reached the table topics contest finals for District 41 also, but I did not get a podium finish last year. Last year, what I feel is, even though I had a similar structure, I started off, okay, here that's the interesting part, where this is another way of starting off. I just want to give you an example. I started off by repeating the topic and stopped at a portion. So I'll share how I started with the speech. One man's success is another man's learning. As Chanakya had told, that you cannot make all the mistakes in your life. You have to learn from the mistakes of others also, or rather the failures of others in this case. This was my beginning. Then I moved on and explained, again, cricket reference, but that easily comes to my mind, that India did really well in the early 2000s, but we never won a trophy. That was a learning that MS Dhoni's team took, and we started winning trophies after that. We reached the finals almost regularly, but we couldn't win trophies under Saurav Ganguly, but we started winning trophies under MS Dhoni. Then I moved to a personal story. Towards the end of the speech, I brought in a third story, which was not required. The fact is that success and failure's definition is different for everyone. So a bee produces in its whole lifetime, just a fact, only 1 teaspoon of honey. That's its whole lifespan, but that's success for it. Okay. This one was slightly off topic compared to what I spoke in the remaining speech. So I think that is why maybe there was a disconnect. I'm not sure what happened, but this is my analysis that didn't well. Conclusion, I had a fair conclusion in that. So I mentioned this topic to explain how you can, there's another technique of beginning, is you can twist the topic in such a way and you can share your this thing, that one man's success is your learning, not your failure. So that's one approach of looking at it. And then the story that I shared was also linked with that. Saurav Ganguly's failures were learnings for MS. If I have to summarize. So okay, so that's it. Now next question, a Toastmaster, please. I'll have a topic for you also at the end. No, not Jawahar. Jawahar's topic is at the end. I have a special topic for Jawahar. Okay, you will try. Okay, please. I have 2 topics. One is a little tough, but which one would you like me to?
He's an experienced Toastmaster.
Good.
So people will judge me after.
No problem. Okay. What's your name, please?
Harsh.
Toastmaster Harsh. Toastmaster Harsh. What if Toastmaster Harsh?
Eating dal rice every day for dinner. How many of you have been through this or have been in a situation where you're repeatedly eating dal rice every night or maybe multiple times in a day? I see a lot of hands, not raised, but I still see hands. So I have been in such a situation as well, where my mother is cooking bottle gourd dal, or maybe something tinde, very famous Indian food. But all these things have one thing in common, that I hate them equally. I have been thinking how to motivate my mother to try to cook some things that are very famous, very lucrative looking and very delicious looking, but I haven't been successful in it. The other method that I could try is that to learn to cook and make food myself and have all those delicious dishes pomodoro pasta, maybe parmigiano pizza, all of those things that I really, really crave, I can cook. But I don't try cooking because I think, what if I go in the kitchen, I turn on the stove and there's no kitchen left anymore? I burn down the entire kitchen. This is a thought that maybe comes from procrastinative nature that I have, or maybe just that I'm too afraid to start something. Similar things are also, these things are not only restricted to my cooking, these have basically spread to other regions of my life as well. I used to play good cricket in my childhood, and I wanted to pursue it, but then my what if question came. Then what if I failed? What if I waste my time and resource? I wouldn't be I will be left hanging in the middle, not doing good in my studies, not actually getting across my destination as well. So that what if question, I think that restricts us and has restricted me, especially in a lot of things in my life. And what I can say is, what if question should be left for the last thing. When you have tried everything, when you are really left with nothing to give to your goal anymore, only then you should think of that what if question, so that nothing hinders you when you really are trying. Thank you, Anurti.
Thank you. Toastmaster Harsh flexed one thing, which is a risky thing, is ending at 2 minutes 29 seconds. So that's one. But okay, so can anyone share, based on today's workshop again, what are the things that he did well?
Throwing a question to the audience, like
Yeah.
the first instance.
Beginning well, okay, yes. Anything else?
But I also feel that I don't think he might have expected, he might got the response as expected, right?
Right. That's okay, but still.
It's a
Yeah.
risk he took.
Correct. Anyone from the virtual audience, can you tell what he did well in the speech?
Made it a bit humorous, I guess.
Yes, that's another good thing. Yes, correct.
And it was something that we could relate to.
Good,
Because,
yes.
we
Relatable.
all face such things, that,
Correct.
what if I do wrong? What if?
Correct, yes. So I'll just share a few things. First of all, he started with the audience interaction. It was great. Again, like I told you, it was humorous because it was relatable. These are things we can relate to. Okay. So that's something, when you share some relatable thing, it can be humorous for the audience. So that's very important. Also, he did a great thing at the end, even though we were dangerously close to the line. He shared his own learning and he shared a message for the audience. Very important. You see how it sounds so well-rounded when you do this. When you share your own learning and then you share an action, call to action for the audience, it makes a lot of sense. The speech feels really well-rounded. Okay. Now, after this, one thing that I would share, Harsh, as a feedback is that I felt your example was going a little off the topic. Like, this is one example and this is an exception to the rule that I spoke of, that you shouldn't speak about the topic. When you have short topics, okay, tell me honestly, did you expect this kind of a short topic? You didn't, right? So short topics are far more difficult because they sound really open-ended and you don't know where to start off. The longer it is, the better it is, because you have to explain the topic, this, that. You can kill some time introducing the topic. In the meantime, you'll get some idea. If the topic is so short, it becomes so open-ended. What if can be a lot of things, right? So that's there. So I think here you had an opportunity to repeat it. For example, your story, I would have begun like this. It was a Sunday morning and I got a chance to ask this question, topics master or contest chair, to the Prime Minister of my home, my mom. What if you cook something else this time except dal chawal at night, right? So something like that you could have started off with. And the examples that you gave, I think the second half went in a different direction. I feel one example can be, when you have this kind of open-ended question, is we usually restrict us from doing things, thinking, what if I can't do it? Rather than it should be, our thought should be, what if it works? What's the harm in trying? Correct? And then you can share examples. There are many instances in our lives, I'm sure, where we have not expected too much of a thing. We just gave it a shot and we got some success, we got something interesting, right? So those kind of instances you can do. But this is to just show the whole audience that short topics seem easier than long, but they are not. So this is how you need to tackle. And this is a catchphrase like a what if you can actually repeat within your speech multiple times. So that will give you that impact. Okay, so that's there. Now, just a minute. Let me see. I have two more topics. Then we'll close it. Next topic, who would like to try? Okay, but before I finish, what if was a topic in a different district, not in India, in US, and the owner and the winner of that contest, James Jeffrey, he was a two-time World Championship finalist for World Championship of Public Speaking. I will share that YouTube link with you. The table topic sounds like a prepared speech. It's so wonderfully delivered, so amazingly delivered. So that's it. Yeah. So who would like to go next? Okay, fine. Jawahar,
Because
I have that
I'm-
special topic ready for you.
I'm more nervous now than I was in the contest.
No, it's okay. No problem. Okay. Toastmaster Jawahar. Be very close to. Where is the mic? Okay. Toastmaster Jawahar. Crabs on a seabed think fishes can fly. Crabs on a seabed think fishes can fly. Toastmaster Jawahar.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think the contest chair has not seen Life of Pi before. Have anybody here seen Life of Pi before? Have you seen flying fishes in it?
Yes.
There is indeed flying fishes. So the crab was not entirely wrong, but I do understand the theme of the topic. Well, the crab on the shore does not think that fish can fly, which indeed is not. Most of the time in our life, we feel that the garden that we stay in is always beautiful. Only until you look into your neighbor's garden, and then you will realize that how green it is. Most of the time, we stick to our thought processes. We believe that what we think is right. And this thought process, most of the time, we gain from what we see, what we read, not in entirety, but at the minimum. Only when we start to step out of our comfort zone and begin to explore into the new world, we will come to know what life has to offer for us. I have such a beautiful experience in my life. A simple one is Toastmasters. In Toastmasters, I was just a regular speaking guy. I enjoyed speaking, I enjoyed listening, but I never thought of participating in any contest before. But then one fine day, I thought that I'll explore contests. So when I stepped into the contest world for the first time, be it ISC or be a stable topic, I realized that the quality which I possessed was not sufficient. I needed an entire different wavelength of practice and training, which actually brought me to a different level of public speaking altogether. I consistently tried for 6 consecutive years. 5 consecutive times I've gone to division, twice runner-up, and for the first time today, I stepped into the district contest. But then I couldn't get into the podium, but then I have a lot of time left in my life for me to go back and practice to perfection and be a winner. Back to you, Contest Chair.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Okay. So really well spoken. This topic is an example where I can take a half an hour workshop to show how differently this topic can be dealt with. This is one of the best topics I have heard. This was not a topic from a contest I participated in. And can anyone guess what level this topic came at? District, division. Anyone else?
International.
This was a club level topic. Okay. And this was in my home club. It is very difficult, but I'll tell you what. Sure.
I feel that you can connect this to any story.
Exactly. This is a great topic. This is a great topic. Now, let me give you a small background. I was the area director. This was my home club. We were one of the best clubs in District 41. We got Hall of Fame from the first year itself. We started getting Hall of Fame, and that continued for 4 years. This time, I think they haven't got it. 40-50 members, huge club. 18 people participated in the table topics contest, including new members. Everyone spoke well on the topic. That was heartening to see. Okay, even though some senior Toastmasters who were there as potentially, I'll not comment, judges maybe, they're like, this is too tough for club level and all that. But what I loved is everyone came up with a different conception. Okay, just to evaluate Toastmaster Jawahar quickly, I think Jawahar ended without a call to action probably at the end, so that could have been done better. Jawahar's interpretation was that we stay on our seabed and we make assumptions without actually taking that leap. Okay. one more thing that you could have done is you could have, I mean, the good things everyone knows. He spoke really well on a tough topic, but another thing you could have done is when you're talking about stepping into the contest, you could have told that you could have cued back to the topic. I wanted to check whether fishes can really fly. Are these people who are talking, do they have something special? Do I need to reach there? And then I realized XYZ after participating for 5 years. So this kind of a connection. Now this topic, many people took it in a different approach. By the way, the district runners up came from our club. By the way, she came second that year. She couldn't win. That was so intense competition at the club level itself. The winner spoke about being a frog in a well. And then she spoke about something that is amazing, like that may not click everyone's mind. She spoke about the fact that a crab stays on a seabed, thinking that the fish has some amazing talent that it can fly, which is not the reality. It's just because the water level is like that, it's seen. But the crab has some innate quality in itself. The crab can walk on the seashore and also come into the water. The fish can't. But it never tried. So if you don't try as a crab to go on the seashore, you will not know that you can explore the land also along with the sea, which the fish can't. So sometimes we limit our thinking by not understanding that we have multiple talents to explore. That was a great thing. She won. The person who came second spoke about crabs being parents and fishes being kids, because she is a mother herself. And sometimes crabs try to limit because they feel that, you know, my son or daughter is flying off the roof, but they are actually doing what they are meant, right? So this topic can have multiple interpretations, and that was a great way to show. Now, this topic is not a clear-cut proverb. It's difficult to, you know, link it with directly. I mean, it can be linked with maybe ambition, maybe perspective. I can add one more point, that perspective of thinking. When you get this kind of a topic, this is a visual topic. Try to visualize. Crab on a seabed, fishes can fly. Why can fishes fly? Because crab, when they look up, they see their fishes swimming, feels like it's flying, but it's actually not. Another interpretation how I would have spoken about is that you can see a bright version of life for someone on Instagram, but that's not how the reality is. Maybe they're just swimming, but you see them as flying.
I think this is the best interpretation.
This is what my interpretation would have been. I spoke with some people, but I love the interpretation of the winner also, that as a crab you can do both. I mean, that was an extension, so that was great. Now, once you start visualizing a topic like this, you can come up with this kind of an interpretation. So try and visualize these kind of topics. This is just an example I wanted to share. Another big thing, three speakers heard the topic wrong. One of them was a really eloquent speaker, and all three of them made the same mistake while hearing it wrong. They heard crabs wearing seat belt instead of seabed. Okay, they had a confused look on their face. They kept on talking about safety, this, that, okay, because they heard seat belt. So this is why hearing the topic is very important. If you mishear the topic, you know, then you're not able to speak. So that's why I told the basic house rules. Don't get disqualified. Don't start by repeating the topic, and hear the topic clearly. Okay, now moving on to the last topic. Anyone wants to take the last topic? Yeah, not guess. Someone